Class, our topic for today is audit risk. To recall, ang diskarte natin in audit theory is to discuss all the concepts by going through the different stages in audit. We're done with stage 1, preliminary engagement activities. And last meeting, nakapag-start na rin tayo with the planning stage. Actually, audit risk is still part of the planning stage. Now, mag-review muna tayo ng konti about the audit process. Sir, ano ba nangyayari sa audit? Start tayo with the client. Sir, sino ba yung mga clients? The clients are basically the companies in the Philippines. The client will provide an audited financial statements to the auditor. Sir, sino naman si auditor? Yan yung mga audit firms. SGV, KPMG, PwC, PNA, Deloitte, RT. These are the largest audit firms in the Philippines. The auditor will perform audit procedures in order to gather evidence. Now, the audit process, medyo matagal yan kasi kailangan daanan lahat ng stages in audit. Siguro it takes mga 5 to 6 months to complete an audit engagement. Pero syempre, depende kung gaano kalaki si client. Now, after performing all the audit procedures, after completing all the stages in audit, the auditor can now issue the audited financial statements from unaudited to audited. Take note that the audited financial statements contain the opinion of the auditor. Meron tayong separate discussion para sa opinion. But just to give you an idea, we have 4 types of opinion. Unqualified, qualified, adverse, and disclaimer. Yung pinaka-okay na opinion is the unqualified. When we issue an unqualified opinion, so basically sinasabi natin, reliable yung financial statements ni client. Ang worst naman is the adverse. Pag nag-issue tayo ng adverse opinion, we are saying na unreliable yung financial statements ni client. Again, meron tayong separate discussion para sa opinions. The audited financial statements will be used by the users of the financial statements. Sir, sino yung mga users? Ito sila. Investors or shareholders, creditors, suppliers, managers and employees, customers, and the government. These are the users of the financial statements. Now, the opinion of the auditor is very crucial because it will influence the decisions of the users of the financial statements. Yung users na yan, magre-rely sila sa auditor, sa audit firms because, syempre, sila yung experts, sila yung professionals. The opinion of the auditor enhances the credibility of the financial statements. But in audit, we can only provide reasonable assurance on the opinion. Hindi tayo makakapag-provide ng absolute assurance. One of the reasons is because of the presence of audit risk. What is audit risk? Audit risk is the risk of giving an incorrect opinion. So basically, ito yung risk na mali yung opinion na maibigay natin. So illustration natin earlier, let's say ang binigay natin na opinion is, reliable yung FS ni client. But in reality, hindi naman pala reliable. Ang tawag natin doon is audit risk. And to better understand audit risk, let's go to our story time. Story time muna tayo. Our case study for today is about the Wirecard scandal. Wirecard scandal. Who is Wirecard? Wirecard is based in Germany. It was founded in 1999. So nag-ooperate na siya for more than 2 decades. And Wirecard offers financial services. Specifically, yung processing of online payments. For example, class, pagbabayad ng credit cards, mobile payments. So basically, Wirecard is engaged in the e-commerce business. Okay? Wirecard was also listed in the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. So listed company siya, and Frankfurt obviously is located in Germany. Ayan, malaking company yan si Wirecard. At its peak, actually meron siyang 280,000 na clients and 5,000 employees. Okay? So ganun siya kalaki. And in fact, in 2018, yun yung pinaka-profitable na year niya, ang valuation ni Wirecard was $29 billion. Okay? And over the years, nag-expand siya internationally. So, bumibili siya ng different companies. May mga subsidiaries si Wirecard globally. Okay? But in 2019, may lumabas na whistleblower. One of the employees of Wirecard exposed the fraudulent practices of Wirecard. Marami siyang issues na in-expose. But yung two major issues, number one, is inflated earnings. So basically, ang ginagawa ni Wirecard, nagba-backdate siya ng mga contracts. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Di ba class marami siyang clients? Tama? Ngayon, hindi pa niya na-offer or na-perform yung services sa client, nire-record na niya as income. Okay? Alam natin sa accounting, bago ka mag-record ng income, dapat na-earn mo muna. So basically, ang ginagawa ni Wirecard, kahit unearned pa lang yung income, nire-record na niya as earned income. Okay? And as I mentioned, di ba marami siyang subsidiaries sa globally, tama? Ngayon, yung subsidiaries na yun, nagbebentahan sila ng assets. Ngayon, sa books nila, merong gain on sale. In higher accounting, matututunan natin na kailangan i-eliminate natin yung gain on sale na yun. Hindi in-eliminate ni Wirecard. Okay? And all in all, ang findings dito, 50% of the income of Wirecard was actually fictitious, fake income. Okay? And second major issue was the $2 billion non-existent cash. Pag tinignan mo yung balance sheet ni Wirecard, may nakalagay doon cash in bank, $2 billion. Sabi doon, nakadeposit daw yun sa OCBC Bank, which is a bank based in Singapore, but in reality, wala talagang $2 billion cash. Ernst & Young, or EY, had been Wirecard's auditor for the past 10 years, from 2008 to 2018. And yan, 1 decade. Actually, class, in audit, pag masyado mo nang matagal, hinahandle si client, may tinatawag tayong familiarity threat. Medyo nagiging familiar ka na kay client, trusting ka na kay client, nababawasan na yung pagiging skeptic mo. Yun yung tendency. And from 2008 to 2018, ang binibigay na opinion ni EY was unqualified. So, ibig sabihin, reliable yung FS ni Wirecard. But in 2019, the partner did not sign off the annual report. So basically, hindi niya pinirmahan yung audited financial statements because of the $2 billion non-existent cash. Actually, class, si EY heavily scrutinized siya dito sa Wirecard scandal because yung cash, it's the first item in the balance sheet. Iyan yung unang-una natin na i-audit. And one of the procedures for cash is confirmation. Iko-confirm natin sa bank kung meron ba talagang deposit doon si client. Okay? Now, allegedly, si Wirecard daw, from 2016 to 2018, hindi daw siya nag-request, si EY, hindi daw siya nag-request ng bank statement from the bank. So, si EY daw, nag-rely lang sa screenshots and documents provided by Wirecard. Okay? Kaya heavily scrutinized si EY. Now, matututunan natin class next time dito sa substantive testing na iba-iba yung level ng reliability of evidence. For example, yung document na i-request ko from the bank, sa bangko, mas reliable yun kaysa sa document from the client. Kasi syempre yung bank is a third party. Okay? Now, on defense naman for EY, sabi ni EY, yung fraud na yan, fabricated yan, elaborated yan. Okay? Na kahit ano gawin naming audit procedures, hindi namin kayang ma-detect yan. So, yun naman yung defense ni EY. Now, as of today, ongoing pa yung cases na yan. May mga hearings pa yan. Hindi pa tapos yung case na yan. Now, what happened next? Ano yung aftermath ng Wirecard scandal? In 2020, basically, nag-file for bankruptcy si Wirecard. Okay? Na-bankrupt siya in 2020. Wirecard admitted na wala talagang 2 billion cash sa bangko. Okay? And nung time na in-announce nila yan, yung admission, 72% of the stock price of Wirecard nag-drop, nag-decrease in a matter of hours. Sino yung nag-suffer doon? Yung investors and the shareholders. 72% ng invest nila, bumagsak. Okay? And in the span of this, yung stock price ni Wirecard from $117 per share, naging $1.5 per share lang in just a few days. Okay? And also, meron din na $4 billion unpaid creditors. Siyempre, paano mababayaran ni Wirecard yan? Eh, wala nga talagang cash. Okay? So, until now, hindi pa bayad yung mga creditors na yan. Sino yung nag-suffer? Creditors, users of the financial statements. What else? Naapektuhan din yung clients ni Wirecard and thousands of employees na lay-off, nawala ng trabaho. Okay? Sino sila? These are the users of the financial statements, the employees and the customers. One of the investors of Wirecard, ang pangalan is SoftBank. I don't know if familiar kayo with SoftBank, but it's a huge company in Japan. And actually, si SoftBank, it has the world's largest tech venture capital fund. Ibig sabihin, nag-i-invest sila sa different technology companies globally. Okay? And in fact, si SoftBank, that time, was the 36th largest company worldwide. 36. Ganun siya kalaki. Now, si SoftBank, nag-invest siya ng $1 billion to Wirecard. I think in 2018 or in 2019. And currently, SoftBank is suing both Wirecard and EY. Because ang sabi ni SoftBank, kung alam lang namin na unreliable pala yung FS na yan, hindi kami mag-i-invest dyan. Obviously, yung 1 billion na yan, lost na yan kasi nga, bankrupt na si Wirecard. Okay? And actually, marami pa mga nangyari. CEO ni Wirecard, ang name is Marcus Brown, nag-resign siya, pero inaresto din yan. Okay. Yung CFO naman, class, pangalan na si John Marsalek, became a fugitive. He is actually one of Europe's most wanted fugitives. Basically, tatago siya. Okay. And may rumor pa nga na baka daw nasa Pilipinas yan, si John Marsalek, kasi yung wife niya is a Filipina. Okay. And the head of EY, yung managing director nila, head of EY Germany, nag-resign yan. Okay. And ang plan ni EY is to spend $2 billion for the next 3 years to improve the audit practices and specifically yung fraud detection. Alright? Now, na-involve pa yung Pilipinas dito. Okay? Binabasa ko yung case, nagulat ako. Kasi apparently, sabi ni Wirecard, yung $2 billion na yan, hindi talaga namin dineposit sa Singapore yan. Dineposit namin sa Pilipinas yan. Specifically sa BPI and kay BDO. Alright? Nagulat ako nung nabasa ko ba? Kasama pala Philippines dito sa story. Ngayon, ang ginawa ni BSP, headed by Secretary Jokno, nag-conduct siya ng investigation. Kung talaga bang pumasok ba sa Philippines yung $2 billion na yan. But ang conclusion naman, okay, ang conclusion is hindi talaga pumasok yung $2 billion sa Pilipinas. Alright? And actually, one of the assistant managers of BPI na-fire because nag-produce siya ng fabricated certificate of deposit na forged yung mga pirma. So basically, yung certificate of deposit na yun, evidencing na nag-deposit daw si Wirecard sa kanila. Pero obviously, again, na-prove naman na hindi talaga client ni BDO or the BPI si Wirecard. Alright? So, ano naman tayo dyan? Yung Philippines, hindi talaga naging involved dyan sa $2 billion na yan. Okay, now, because of the fraudulent practices of Wirecard and because of the inappropriate opinion or incorrect opinion, kasi from 2016 pa pala, wala pala talaga yung 2 billion na cash. 2016 to 2018, unqualified yung binigay na opinion. Dapat adverse, dapat unreliable yung FS na yan. And because of that, ang nag-suffer dito are the users of the financial statements. The Wirecard scandal, this case study, perfectly illustrates the concept of audit risk. Ano ulit yung audit risk? The risk of giving an incorrect opinion. Dito, class, nakita rin natin yung degree, yung possible na negative effects sa users of the financial statements. In audit, our objective is to reduce the audit risk to an acceptable level. Okay? Take note, class, na ang sabi ko dito, reduce lang. Because we cannot eliminate audit risk. Kahit gaano karaming audit procedures yung i-perform natin, we cannot eliminate audit risk. Sir, how do we reduce audit risk to an acceptable level? By applying the audit risk formula. The audit risk formula states that the audit risk is equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. Isa-isahin natin yung class. Alam na natin yung audit risk. Sir, ano ibig sabihin ng inherent risk? Inherent risk is the susceptibility of account balances. Susceptibility of the account balances. Ano ibig sabihin yan, sir? I'll give you an illustration para mas clear. Let's say, class, meron tayo yung dalawang clients. Client A and client B. Si client A is a traditional company. So, sa financial statements niya, nakita natin, ay, may cash, AR, inventory, PPE, etc. So, yung typical na company. No? Now, si client B naman, ang tingnan natin yung financial statements niya, merong leases, merong pensions, merong research and development, merong goodwill, etc. When you say account balances, ang ibig sabihin niyang class, yun yung mga line items in the financial statements. Now, susceptibility, ano yung mas susceptible sa dalawa na yan? Pag sinabi mong susceptible, it involves subjective judgments. Okay? Medyo mas complex yung accounting. Well, sino class dito yung mas susceptible? Si client A or si client B? Si client B because yung leases na yan, sa accounting, gagamit ka ng discount rate yan. Sa pensions, aalamin pa natin kung ano yung annual salary increase, yung mortality rate, i-estimate pa yan. Sa R&D and goodwill, medyo complex yung accounting yan. So, para mas madaling intindihin, pag sinabi mong susceptibility of account balances, yung line items in the financial statements involves subjective judgments, mas complex yung accounting. In our illustration, si client B, mas mataas yung inherent risk niya than client A. Understood? Okay. Let's go to control risk. Control risk is the risk that the internal controls of the client will not be able to prevent, detect, or correct misstatements in the financial statements. So, ulitin ko class, when you say in control risk, the internal controls, yun yung keyword dyan na, internal controls of the client will not be able to prevent, detect, or correct misstatements. Yung internal controls, actually, yun yung next topic natin sa understanding internal controls. So, doon natin i-expound yung concept niyan, ha? But basically, yan daw yung risk na yung internal controls ni client, baka hindi niya makita yung mga misstatements sa financial statements. Okay? Pag effective yung internal controls ni client, mababa yung control risk. Pag ineffective yung internal controls of the client, mataas yung control risk. Right? Again, i-expound natin yan next meeting. Okay. And last component of audit risk is detection risk. Detection risk is the risk that the audit procedures will fail to detect misstatements. Okay? The audit procedures will fail to detect misstatements. So take note na audit procedures yan. Okay. So later meron tayong illustration. But to summarize, audit risk is equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. Yung tatlo na yan, na risks na yan, yan daw yung components of audit risk. Now, in practice, meron tayong 3 steps para sa i-apply yung audit risk formula. So, lagay ko dito class. Steps. Okay? Number 1 is set the desired level of audit risk. Yun muna. Set the desired level of audit risk. In practice, usually class, around mga 5 to 10% yung level niyan. Okay? Don't worry, sa practice may mga guidelines yan, and usually yung mga superior mo yung gagawa niyan. Okay? Set the desired level of audit risk. Lagyan natin dito, desired level. Okay? And then next step natin class is to assess the risk of material misstatement. RMM na lang. Assess the risk of material misstatement. Sir, ano yung risk of material misstatement? Pag nabasa mo yung class o yung RMM, it just means na iyon yung inherent risk and control risk. Okay? So, pag sinabing risk of material misstatement, that is just your inherent risk and control risk. Take note class na i-assess lang natin yan. So, ang term natin dito is assess level of inherent risk and assess level of control risk. Ano yung implication yan? Pag ina-assess lang natin, hindi natin yan may influence. Hindi natin yan makokontrol. Bakit, sir? Kasi class, yung inherent risk, sa client side yan. Okay? Diba? Yung inherent risk, yung mga account balances yan, o tayo as auditor, wala tayong kinalaman sa mga account balances na yan. Client side yan. I-assess lang natin. Yung internal controls, yung control risk, client side din yan. Tayo as auditor, wala naman tayong kinalaman dun sa internal controls si client. Kaya ina-assess lang natin yan. Gets? Okay. And then yung third step natin dito, class, is to determine the acceptable level of detection risk. Okay, yun yung third na step natin. Take note class, acceptable level of detection risk. So lagyan natin dito, acceptable. So yung inherent and control risk, ina-assess natin. Kasi sa client side yan. Pero class yung detection risk, audit procedures yan, sa auditor side yan. Tama? So ibig sabihin, may control tayo dyan, may influence natin. Kaya dito class, lagay natin auditor side. So ulitin ko, very important. Yung inherent risk, hindi natin makokontrol yan. Control risk, hindi natin makokontrol yan. Ang pwede lang natin makontrol is the detection risk. Gets? Okay, now. Malapit na. Punta muna tayo ulit dito sa step 2. Risk of material misstatement. Step 2 is assess the risk of material misstatement. Dalawa lang yung possible scenarios yung class. Yung risk of material misstatement, pwede siyang high or pwede siyang low. Alright? Dalawa lang yan. Pwedeng high, pwedeng low. Ano ulit yung risk of material misstatement? Yun yung combined level of inherent risk and control risk. Pag high yung risk of material misstatement, para ma-maintain natin yung formula na yan, kailangan class, ibaba mo yung detection risk. Pag naman low yung risk of material misstatement, kailangan itaas natin yung detection risk. Kaya merong inverse relationship si risk of material misstatement and detection risk. Pag high si RMM, low si DR. Pag low si RMM, high si DR. Inverse relationship. Okay? Sir, ano ba ibig sabihin ng low acceptable level of detection risk? Ibig sabihin, class, hindi tayo mag-accept ng masyadong mataas na risk. Parang ganon. Low acceptable level of detection risk. It means, yung audit natin will be stricter. Mas stricto tayo sa audit, mas conservative tayo pag low yung detection risk compared to if high yung detection risk. Okay? Now, very important. Yung detection risk natin na yung class, meron siyang effect to the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedure. So, ulitin ko class, yung detection risk natin will have an effect to the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures or substantive procedures. Di-discuss natin yan in detail dito. Alright? Kaya, pag low yung detection risk natin, class, yung procedures natin will be more effective. Sulat mo muna, later meron tayong illustration. Pag naman high yung detection risk, less effective procedures naman. Pag low yung detection risk, yung timing natin, okay, letter T is timing, ipe-perform natin yung audit at year-end. Kapag naman high yung detection risk, ipe-perform natin yung audit at interim. Okay? Sulat mo muna, later meron tayong illustration. The last one is the extent. Pag low yung detection risk, mas strict tayo sa pag-audit, damihan natin yung sample size. Ang ibig sabihin lang, class, ng mataas yung sample size, marami tayong transactions na ite-test, therefore, marami tayong evidence na mako-collect. Okay? Higher transactions, higher evidence. Pag naman mataas yung detection risk, pwedeng mas konti yung samples na i-test natin or mas konti yung evidence na kunin natin. Alright? So, ulitin ko, class. Very important. The audit risk formula, yung components siya, mayroon tatlong risks. Okay? Pag naset na natin yung audit risk natin, yung desired level, i-assess natin si inherent and control risk. After that, saka tayo mag-determine ang acceptable level of detection risk. Si detection risk lang ang kaya nating makontrol kasi iyan yung sa auditor side. Ngayon, ang importance yan, lahat ng ginawa natin na yan, ang importance yan, meron siyang effect sa nature, timing, and extent of our substantive procedures. Pag low yung detection risk, more effective, year-end, and mas maraming transactions na iti-test. Pag naman high detection risk, less effective, interim, and mas konti tayong transactions na iti-test. Alright? Now, to better understand the concept of audit risk formula, story time ulit tayo. Okay? Story time. Now, for example, class, ikaw naman yung bida. Okay? So, nag-graduate ka ng BS Accountancy, and then, nag-review ka for board exam, syempre, pasado ka. Syempre naman, sa Pinnacle ka nag-review. Ikaw ba naman ang mag-review sa the most efficient and effective zero-based CPA review program in the Philippines? So, talagang papasa ka. Okay? One take lang. Pasado agad. Okay, so CPA ka na. Ha? And then, nag-rest ka muna. Siyempre, napagod ka sa pagre-review. Okay? Nag-rest ka for a couple of weeks and then, nag-decide ka na mag-join ka ng audit firm. Okay? Para ma-apply mo yung natutunan mo sa audit theory kasi naging favorite subject mo to sa review. Now, let's say class, nag-join ka sa PwC. Ayan. O, yung ibang audit firms yan, huwag kayong magtatampo. Kayo naman yung magiging example ko sa next lessons natin. O, PwC muna ngayon. And then class, for example, na-assign sa'yo na first client mo is coins.ph. Yan. Now, again, sa audit, kailangan daanan natin lahat ng stages in audit na yan. Sa preliminary engagement activities, natutunan natin before, sa previous lesson natin, well, dyan tayo mag-assemble ng team. So, for example, class, merong isang partner, may 2 managers, may 5 na senior associates, and then may 5 na, let's say, junior associates, okay? Junior associate, ikaw yun. Entry-level associate, ang tawag sa'yo, junior associate, okay? Now, in audit, bago ka mag-field work, bago ka isabak sa actual audit, may mga trainings naman yan. So, don't worry, may trainings doon. 2 weeks na trainings yan. And so, ayan. Tignan muna natin. So, ang gagawin natin sa preliminary engagement activities, meron na tayong team, magpe-prepare na engagement letter, and then sa planning, meron tayong overall audit strategy, audit plan, mag-set ng materiality level. Natutunan na natin yan sa previous discussion natin. Now, kailangan na tayong mag-set ng audit risk. Okay? So, gagawin natin dyan, yung team, syempre, i-apply yung audit risk formula. Audit risk is equal to inherent risk times control risk times detection risk. Okay. So, now, ikaw, as junior associate, syempre, inaral mo muna yung client, si coins.ph. And, natutunan mo na si coins.ph pala, nasa, well, tech company pala yan. Okay, so technology company, and then engage yan sa mga cryptos. Okay, mga cryptocurrencies, mga digital currencies. Ayan. And then, so inaral mo muna yung buong industry. Okay, and then inaral mo si coins.ph. Kasi class, ganito nangyayari in practice, no? Para maging effective yung pag-audit mo, una mo nga aralin dyan is the industry muna. O, dito, aralin mo muna kung paano nag-work yung mga cryptos, yung mga ganyan-ganyan. After mo matutunan yung industry, saka mo aaralin yung operations ni client. Okay? After that, saka mag-aaralin yung FS ni client. So, industry, operations, and FS. So, for me, personally, yun yung pinaka-value adding. So, marami kang matutunan talaga dun sa stage na yan in audit. Anyway, so ayan. So, natutunan natin class na si coins.ph, tech company siya, sa crypto siya, and then meron pala siya mobile app. Okay? So, meron siya mobile app wherein pwede kang mag-buy and sell ng mga cryptos, pwede ka rin may mga financial services din yan, pwede ka magbayad ng mga bills, and then pwede ka rin mag-send or mag-receive ng parang GCash, parang ganun. And then natutunan natin na si coins.ph, regulated pala yan by BSP, and meron siyang 16 million registered users. Okay, now, nag-decide yung team na, o sige, yung audit risk natin class, ang acceptable is 10%. Ayan. So don't worry, yung superior mo yung bahala dyan, usually yung mga managers, sila magde-determine yan. Pag junior associate, wala kang masyadong gagawin dyan. Okay? And let's say, sa inherent risk. So, tinignan natin yung financial statements of coins.ph. Nakita natin na ba, may mga cryptos, may mga intangible assets, may mga research and development, may mga ganyan. So, medyo complex yung accounting ni coins.ph. Nag-decide yung team na, o sige, 60% yan yung inherent risk. So, medyo mataas. And then, control risk naman. So, dyan, medyo mag-field work ka na. Pupuntahan natin yung office ni coins.ph. Okay, so, ang ginawa mo, syempre, ready ka na, no? So, class, paano mo malalaman kung yung mga kasalubong mo sa BGC o kaya sa Ayala is an auditor? Paano malaman yan? So, ganito yan. Pag naka-backpack, okay, may laman na laptop yan, may ID, and may eye bags, auditor yan. Okay? Yun yung auditor starter pack. Okay? So, ang ginawa mo, nag-field work ka, punta ka sa office ni coins.ph, in-assess natin yung internal controls. Okay? Now, let's say na nagsisimula pa lang si coins.ph. Ngayon kasi marami ng employees yan eh. For example, nagsisimula pa lang siya, konti pa yung employees. Napansin natin, diba? Hindi properly segregated yung duties. And then yung mga records, hindi pa ganun ka-organized kasi nag-start pa lang. So, naging conclusion ng team is, mataas yung control risk. Mga 60% din yan. Okay, yung naging conclusion natin. Now, Ang next step natin, so okay na tayo sa step 1, yung audit risk. Step 2, okay na rin, yung risk of material misstatement, which is the inherent and control risk. Step 3 natin, class, is determine the acceptable level of detection risk. Sir, paano gagawin natin dyan? Isya-shuffle lang natin yung formula. So, kung ito yung formula natin, to solve for detection risk is equal to audit risk over inherent risk times control risk. Tama lang? So, ganyan lang siya. Shuffle ko lang siya. Now, kung yung audit risk natin is 10%, and then yung inherent risk natin is 60%, control risk natin is 60%. Pag sinolve mo yan, o sinolve ko na para sa'yo, ang makukuha mo dyan is 27.8%. Alright? So basically, 27.8, ibig sabihin, mababa yung detection risk. Ganito yung kasi, class. In-assess natin yung inherent risk, 60%. In-assess natin yung control risk, 60%. Para ma-retain natin yung 10% na yan, ano dapat si detection risk? Ito siya, 27.8%. Kaya pag minultiply mo yung tatlo na yan, 60% times 60% times 27.8%, makukuha mo dyan is 10% audit risk. Okay? Now, class, yung 10% na yan, ang ibig sabihin yan, 10% chance na baka mali yung opinion na mabigay natin. Di ba ganun yung ibig sabihin ng audit risk? Incorrect opinion? So, yun yung ibig sabihin ng 10% na yan. So, 90% confident tayo na tama yung mabibigay natin na opinion kay client. Now, sabi ko kanina, yung audit risk model, ang ultimate effect niyan is to determine the nature, time, and extent of our audit procedures. Ngayon, mababa yung audit risk, yung detection risk natin. Ito siya. Ano yung effect niyan? Yung nature ng substantive procedures natin, more effective. Sir, ano ba ibig sabihin ng more effective? Bibigyan ko muna kayo ng illustration, pero yung details yung class, i-discuss natin sa substantive testing. Bibigyan tayo ng 2 options. For example, class, mag-audit tayo ng cash. Ang option 1 natin, let's say, i-check natin yung records ng client natin, ni coins.ph. Yun yung option 1. Okay? Option 2 natin, class, is to ask for bank confirmation and then mag-perform tayo ng bank recon. Okay, so again, illustrate natin kung ano yung difference ng more effective at less effective dito sa nature. Okay? For example, i-audit natin yung cash ni coins.ph. Ang una nating option, sige, check natin yung records ni coins.ph. Ang isa nating option, i-confirm natin sa bank. Okay, kung meron talagang deposit doon, si coins.ph, and then mag-perform tayo ng bank recon. So class, ano yung mas effective dito? Option 1 or option 2? Option 2. Okay, ito yung more effective procedures. Binigyan lang kita ng illustration, pero yung details yan, again, mga procedures na yan, i-discuss natin yan sa substantive testing. Since mababa yung detection risk natin, more effective procedures yung gagawin natin. Okay? And then, mag-audit tayo at year-end. Ano yun? December 31, for example. Instead na interim, ano ba yung interim? For example, third quarter. Hindi ganun. December 31 tayo. Because sa December 31 class, complete na yung numbers, complete na yung figures. Okay? Hindi na natin kailangan mag-estimate ng mga amounts yan. Kasi syempre, January 1 to December 31, yung year, for example, ni coins.ph, complete na yung amounts pagdating ng December 31. Okay? And then, mas marami tayong samples na itetest. Okay? Kasi nga, syempre, magiging mas strict yung audit natin. For example, instead na 100 transactions lang ni coins.ph ang itetest natin, gawin natin 200. So, mas mataas yung samples na itetest natin. So, ulitin ko lang, for audit risk formula, remember, ang ultimate output niyan is the nature, time, and extent of our substantive procedures. This is audit risk. Okay, class, let's apply the concepts of audit risk sa handouts natin. So let's answer our handouts. Let's go to number 1. The audit risk model is used primarily, tingnan natin yung choices. Letter A, for planning purposes in determining how much evidence to accumulate. Actually, A na yung sagot dyan. Bakit, sir? Yung audit risk model or yung audit risk formula, first, nakalagay for planning purposes. Planning stage pa rin tayo dyan. Audit risk is still under planning stage. Now, yung next part, in determining how much evidence to accumulate. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Yun yung extent. Tama? Again, yung audit risk model natin, may effect siya sa nature, timing, and extent. Pag sinabi mo extent, kung gaano karaming transactions yung itetest natin. Pag mababa yung detection risk mo, mas marami ka itetest. Pag marami ka itetest, mas maraming evidence. Okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng letter A. So, tingnan natin class yung ibang choices kung bakit sila incorrect. Letter B, while doing test of controls. Ito yung test of controls. Nasa planning pa lang tayo. So, mali na yan. Eliminated na yung B kasi ibang stage yan eh. Okay, letter C, to determine the type of opinion. Yung opinion, dito natin siya i-discuss sa completing the audit. Mali na rin yan. Okay, letter D, to evaluate the evidence which has been gathered. Dito naman yan sa substantive testing. So class, sa audit theory, ang isang magandang technique dito, dapat alam mo yung stages. Okay? As you notice here, sa audit risk model, alam natin na under planning stage yan. Yung ibang choices, ibang stages yan eh. So, automatically, eliminated na agad sila. Alright? So, letter A yung sagot natin for number 1. Number 2, having evaluated inherent risk and control risk. Ito yun. Yung assess the risk of material misstatement, inherent and control risk. The auditor determines detection risk. Tignan natin yung choices. A, as the complement of overall audit risk by performing substantive test. Letter C, as a product of further study of the business. And letter D, at a level that equates a joint probability of inherent, control risk, detection risk, and overall audit risk. Dog yan, okay? Again, pag na-assess natin yung risk of material misstatement, ang next step is to determine the acceptable level of detection risk. Paano ginawa natin? Ito. Okay? Nalaman natin na 60% yan. Sinapol natin yung formula, nakuha natin yung detection risk. Yun yung ibig sabihin ng letter D. Okay? For number 2, dog yung sagot natin dyan. Number 3, audit risk component consists of all the following except, alin daw dito yung hindi components yung audit risk. A, inherent risk, component yan. B, detection risk, yes. C, substantive risk. Walang ganyan. Wala naman tayong diniscuss ng substantive risk. So, yung C na yung mali dyan. Okay? Letter C for number 3. Letter D, control risk, yes. For number 3, letter C. Number 4, the risk that the auditor may express an incorrect opinion. Ang tawag natin dyan, audit risk, letter D or dog. Number 5, the susceptibility of account to misstatements, assuming no internal control. Susceptibility of accounts, inherent risk, letter A. Okay? So, ayan, letter A for number 5. Number 6, control risk is the risk that, let's read the choices. A material misstatement will occur in the accounting process. Actually, A is inherent risk. No? Letter B, controls will not detect a material misstatement that occurs. Letter B yun yung control risk. Again, pag sabi mo control risk, yung internal control si client, hindi niya ma-detect yung misstatements. Okay? So, letter B yung sagot natin. Letter C, audit procedures will fail to detect more of detection risk. Yan, no? So, letter B for control risk. Number 7, the risk that the auditor's procedures will lead them to conclude that a material misstatement does not exist, etc. The risk that the auditor's procedures, alin yan? Ito siya. Audit procedures. Okay? So, yung number 7 na yan, letter C yan. Detection risk yan. Okay? Number 8, inherent risk and control risk differ from detection risk. In that inherent and control risk, ano daw class yung difference ng inherent and control risk sa detection risk? Yun yung question, ha? Letter A, arise from misapplication of audit procedures. O mali yan. Detection risk yan. Okay? Ang tiyatawag sa atin, inherent and control risk. Letter B, may be assessed in either quantitative or non-quantitative terms. Actually, lahat sila. Pwede silang i-assess quantitative and non-quantitative. Letter C yung sagot dito, class. Because the inherent control risk exists independently of the financial statement audit. Ano ibig sabihin ng class? Exists independently. Because yung inherent and control risk, client side yan. Okay? Kaya tayo may X dyan. Hindi natin makokontrol yan. Okay? Ang kaya lang natin makontrol is the detection risk. Kaya yung inherent and control risk, independent sila from the audit. Kaya ina-assess lang natin sila. Okay? Letter C for number 8. Letter D can be changed at the auditor's discretion. Class, pwede bang i-change ni auditor yung inherent and control risk? Hindi. Ina-assess nga lang natin yan. Wala tayong control dyan. Okay? Gets? Okay. And ayan. So class, actually, sa audit theory, ganito yung diskarte na discussion natin. Meron tayong mga illustrations, meron tayong case studies, may mga stories tayo, para na-visualize nyo, na-i-imagine nyo, na-appreciate nyo yung concept. Okay? Kasi ang tendency ng mga CPA review is, pag audit theory, minimemorize lang nila yung mga questions ay yung mga answers. Dapat hindi ganon. Dapat naiintindihan natin yung concepts. And hopefully, na-appreciate nyo siya sa mga stories natin para nakikita nyo yung real-life application ng audit theory. Alright? So, ayan. Ganyan yung discussion natin sa Pinnacle. Concept-based tayo dito. So, yeah, let's go to number 9. An auditor uses the assessed level of control risk and inherent risk to Okay, so after doon natin i-assess, sa step 2, let's go to letter A. Evaluate the effectiveness of the entity's internal control. Hindi, test of controls yan, dito yan. Wala pa tayo dyan. Letter B, identify transactions and account balances where inherent risk is at a high level. Letter C, indicate whether materiality thresholds. Letter D, determine the acceptable level of detection risk. Letter D yan. After natin i-assess yung risk of material misstatement, determine natin yung acceptable level of detection risk. Letter D for number 9. Number 10, which of the following is an incorrect statement? Alin daw yung mali, class? Letter A, detection risk cannot be changed. Do you agree? Detection risk cannot be changed. Incorrect yan. Can be changed. Kasi nga may control tayo dyan. Dito, ang ginawa natin, alam natin na 60, 60, and 10, nag-adjust tayo. Ginawa natin 27.8 si detection risk. Okay? So, mali na. A na yung sagot natin dyan. Let's take a look at the other choices. Letter B, if individual audit remains the same, detection risk bears inverse relationship to inherent and control risk. Do you agree with that? Yes. So, dito sa formula natin, class, merong inverse relationship si detection risk kay inherent and control risk. Okay? Tama yung letter B. Letter C, the greater the inherent and control risk, the less detection risk that can be accepted. Yes. Kasi nga, inverse relationship. Pag tumaas, inherent and control risk, ibababa natin si detection risk. Parang ito. Pag high yung risk of material misstatement, ibaba natin yan. Pag low naman, itaas natin yan. Inverse relationship. Letter D, the auditor might make separate or combined assessment of inherent and control risk. Actually, that's correct din. No? Letter A yung sagot natin for number 10. Number 11, because control risk and inherent risk vary from cycle to cycle, account to account, or objective to objective. Letter A, acceptable audit risk must remain constant. Hindi yan. Depende yan sa assessment natin. So, mali yan. Letter B, detection risk and required evidence will also vary. That's correct. Okay? B yung sagot natin. Bakit, sir? Kasi pag mababa si detection risk, dadamihan natin yung evidence. Pag mataas si detection risk, pwedeng mas konti yung evidence natin. Kaya letter B yung sagot natin dyan. Okay? Number 12, on the basis of the audit evidence gathered and evaluated, an auditor decides to increase the level of control risk. Tinaas yung control risk from that original plan to achieve an overall audit risk level that is substantially the same as the planned audit risk the auditor would. Plus, pag tinaas yung control risk, ano gagawin mo sa detection risk? Ibababa mo yan. Tama? Letter C, decrease detection risk. Kasi nga, meron silang inverse relationship. Para ma-retain mo yung desired level of audit risk natin, ibaba mo yung ibaba mo yung detection risk. Letter C for number 12. Number 13, relationship between control risk and detection risk. Alam natin, inverse relationship, letter C. Number 14, relationship between inherent risk and control risk. So class, ano yung relationship ng inherent risk and control risk? Actually, answer dyan is none. Wala silang relationship. Bakit, sir? Kasi class, yung inherent risk, depende yan sa mga account balances. Yung control risk naman, depende yan sa internal controls ni client. So, wala silang relationship. Okay? So, para matandaan mo yan, isipin mo lang, class, parang kayo yan ang kachat mo. Akala mo may relationship kayo, pero wala talaga. Wala talaga label. Okay? So, yan. Para matandaan mo. So, yung relationship between inherent and control risk is none. Letter A. Number 15, which of the following supports an increase in detection risk? Tingnan natin, class, ha? Tingnan natin yung A. Actually, A yung sagot dyan. Ang tanong is increase in detection risk. A, internal control over cash receipts is excellent. Ganito yan, class. Pag excellent or effective yung internal controls of the client, mababa yung control risk niyan. Tama? Pag mababa yung control risk, alam natin na meron siyang inverse relationship sa detection risk, itataas mo yung detection risk. Okay? Kaya ang tanong sa atin, which of the following supports an increase in detection risk? Pag okay yung internal controls si client. Kasi pag okay yung internal controls niya, mababa yung control risk. Letter E yung sagot mo dyan. Alright? So, ayan. So, basta naiintindihan mo, class, yung concept ng audit risk, basta visualize mo siya sa real-life scenario, lahat ng tanong dyan sa mga review materials na yan, kayang-kaya mo sagutan yan. Alright? Sige. Let's go to number 16. Inherent risk is defined as the susceptibility of account balance or class of transactions. Ito siya. Which of the following is an example of the concept of inherent risk? Let's read the choices. A, humans make more errors than computers. Therefore, a manual accounting system is riskier than a computerized. Not necessarily. Pwedeng mas risky yung computerized kaysa sa manual accounting system. So, mali yan. Letter B, accounting systems with vouchers have more controls built in, so the risk that there will be errors is reduced, not necessarily. Okay, letter C, loans receivable for a finance company are less likely to be collectible than those of a bank. Actually, C yung correct answer dyan. Ano ibig sabihin yan, sir? Loans receivable for a finance company. Sino ba yung mga finance company? For example, class, yung mga credit cooperatives, yung mga pawn shops, yung mga ganyan. Ngayon, kung mapapansin mo, mas mataas yung charge nila na interest kumpara sa mga bangko, sa banks. Because sa banks kasi, mas secured yun eh. Dito sa mga finance company na yan, mas mataas yung risk na hindi sila makakollect dun sa mga muutang sa kanila. Alright? So, yun ibig sabihin niya na yung loans receivable nila are less likely to be collectible. Kaya mas mataas yung interest na charge nila. It's an example of inherent risk because yung loans receivable, line item yan sa financial statements. Okay? Letter C for number 16. Letter D, audits with larger sample sizes are less risky than those with sample sizes. Tama naman yan, pero hindi yan concept ng inherent risk. Ang tiyatanong sa atin is concept of inherent risk. Number 16, letter C. Number 17, which of the following discoveries by the auditor would not raise the red flag of increased inherent risk? Would not, ha? So, ingat ka sa mga ganyan terms, ha? Not yung tanong sa atin. A, management bonuses are based on a percentage of net income. Well, kung based sa net income yan, possible na mangyari dyan, baka i-manipulate ni management yung net income para magka-bonus sila. So, ayan, red flag yan. Letter B, a bond indenture requires a current ratio of at least 3:1. Ngayon, yung bond indenture na yan, ibig sabihin, merong requirement, may restriction dito na kailangan ma-maintain daw yung current ratio of 3:1. Well, pwedeng i-manipulate ni management yung FS para mapakita niya na nagko-comply sila dun sa restriction. Kasi pag hindi ka nakapag-comply dyan, may penalty yan. So, red flag din yan. Letter C, client makes extensive use of notes receivable and notes payable rather than buying and selling on open account. Well, sa letter C, wala akong issue na nakikita dyan. Gumagamit doon ng notes receivable and notes payable, okay nga yun kasi at least mas written yung naging transactions. Okay? Not raise the red flag, letter C yung sagot dyan. Letter D, client is a parent company with a subsidiary. Possible kasi na may mga transactions between parent and subsidiary. And ayan, so possible na may red flag din dyan. Letter C for number 17. Let's go to number 18. Inherent risk is blank related to detection risk and blank related to the amount of audit evidence. Ganito gagawin ko dyan, class. Sa inherent risk daw, pag tumaas sa inherent risk, ano mangyayari sa detection risk? Bababa mo yan. Kasi nga, inversely related sila. Tama? Baba mo sa detection risk. Pag binaba mo sa detection risk, ano yung evidence sa ating class? High or low? High yan. Okay? So, mataas yung evidence natin. Mas marami tayong titest na transactions. Therefore, sa number 18, inherent risk is blank related to detection risk. Inverse yan. Kasi pag tumaas, bababa si detection risk. So, inverse. And blank related to the amount of audit evidence. Direct naman yan. Kasi pag tumaas, tataas yung evidence. Okay? So, sagot mo dito, inverse and direct. Letter D for number 18. 19. The risk of material misstatement refers to, again, pag sinabi mong RMM, yun lang yung inherent and control risk. Letter C, the combination of inherent risk and control risk. Number 20. The risk of material misstatement differs from detection risk in that punta ka sa letter D. Okay? Yung risk of material misstatement, yung inherent and control risk, letter D is controllable by the client. Totoo yan, kasi client side yan eh. Yung detection risk, controllable by the auditor naman. Okay? So, letter D for number 20. Ayan. Number 21, when discussing control risk in the audit risk model, which of the following is false? Letter A, control risk is a measure of the auditor's assessment of the likelihood that misstatements will not be prevented or detected by internal control. Yes, that's correct. Alin do yung false, no? Letter B, if the auditor concludes that the internal control is ineffective, he or she would assign a low value. Mali yun. Kasi pag ineffective yung internal controls ni client, mataas yung risk. Okay? Pag ineffective, itaas mo yung control risk. Pag effective, ibaba mo yung control risk. So dito, instead na low value, dapat high value yan. Okay? So yung false dito, class, is letter B or boy. Tingnan natin yung ibang choices. Letter C. The relationship between control risk and detection risk is inverse. Do you agree? Yes. Letter D. The relationship between control risk and evidence is direct. Oh, tumaas. Oh, pag yung, tingnan natin, class, yung letter D, analyze natin. The relationship between control risk and evidence is direct. Pag tumaas si control risk, ibababa mo si detection risk. Again, pag binaba mo si detection risk, dapat mas marami kang transactions na i-test. Therefore, dapat mas madaming evidence. Okay? So, si control risk, pag tumaas, tataas din si evidence. Directly related. So, true din yung letter D. So, boy tayo for number 21. 22. If an auditor believes that the chance of financial failure is high, the desired audit risk would likely. So, pag medyo risky si client, okay, kailangan ibaba mo yung audit risk. Okay, so siguro instead of 10%, gawin mong 5%. Diba? Ibig sabihin kasi ng audit risk, risk na of giving incorrect opinion. Ngayon, pag medyo risky si client, dapat mas maging strict tayo sa pag-audit. So, ang gagawin natin sa audit risk, ibaba natin yan. So, letter A, be reduced. That's for number 22. Let's go to number 23. The acceptable level of detection risk is inversely related to, okay, punta ka dun class sa letter A, assurance provided by substantive test. Kasi class, pag tumaas si detection risk, okay, pag tumaas si detection risk, mas konti yung itetest natin ang transactions. Tama? Mas mababa yung evidence. Ngayon class, pag mas konti yung evidence na i-collect natin, mas mababa yung assurance natin. Tama lang? Pag mas madami yung evidence, mas mataas yung assurance. So, dito class, sabi dyan, basahin natin yung question. The acceptable level of detection risk is inversely related to the assurance. Kasi pag mataas si detection risk, mas konti yung assurance. Take note class, ang implication kasi pag mataas si detection risk, pwedeng hindi ganun ka-strict yung audit natin. Parang ganun siya. Kaya letter A tayo for number 23. Number 24. As the acceptable level of detection risk decreases, ito siya. The auditor may do one or more of the following except, except daw alin daw yung mali dyan. A, nature of substantive test to more effective. Do you agree? Yes, more effective kapag low yung detection risk. Letter B, timing of substantive test such as performing them at year-end. Yes, year-end. Letter C, extent of substantive test using larger sample size. That's correct. Letter D, assurance provided to a lower level. Well, kapag marami kang transactions na itetest, mas mataas yung assurance. So, higher level yan. Dog yung sagot natin for number 24. Ito, madalas tinatanong sa board exam yan. So, again, ano yung effect ng detection risk sa nature and time and extent of the substantive procedures. Number 25. As the acceptable level of detection risk decreases, the assurance directly provided from, again, na-explain ko na sa previous item, pag bababa sa detection risk, mas marami tayong itetest. Mas marami tayong gagather na evidence. Mas mataas yung assurance natin. Letter A, substantive test should increase. Number 26, as the acceptable level of detection risk decreases, an auditor may change, tingnan natin, pag mababa si detection risk, ito siya, timing of substantive test by performing them at interim, hindi, year-end dapat. So, mali na yung A. Letter B, nature of substantive test from less effective to more effective. That's correct. More effective. Boy yung sagot natin sa 26. Letter C, timing of test of controls by performing at several dates. Letter D, assess level of inherent risk or higher. No. Letter B tayo dyan for number 26. And last item. Number 27, the existence of audit risk is recognized in the statement in the auditor's report that, again class, one of the reasons kung bakit hindi tayo makapag-provide ng absolute assurance sa audit, reasonable assurance lang, is because of the presence of audit risk. Ang sagot natin dito class is letter C. Auditor obtains reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Answer for number 27 is letter C. That's the end of our discussion for audit risk.